I found it on my bed last night. Whatever you may think of pride, sending threatening posters definitely isn't his thing. Nor are bombs. They damage the environment.
This proves nothing. We find out Pryor's not alone in hating you. We knew that already. Are you forgetting, Ebony? He swore to get revenge on you.
You've got the wrong guy, Lex. Let him go.
Not a chance.
That's an order.
Not unless you have a stronger suspect.
So welcome to Series 4, Episode 12 of Conversation on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host Lance, and joining the podcast panel today is Liz.
Hello.
Sabine.
Hi.
And a very warm welcome to our guest for today, Chris.
Hello.
With episode notes done by Matt and myself. So before we get into the details of the episode, we are going to grill our new guest member on their likes and dislikes concerning the tribe. So Chris, most critical question first of all, what's your favourite or least favourite season?
Season 1 is my favourite. I think with the original cast, things like that, it just seemed more special that season. First season would have to be season 4, and the reason I do go towards season 4 is I think due to losing a large chunk of the main cast at the beginning, then you lose obviously more main cast people throughout the season, and of course the introduction to technology and things like that. I do think you do lose quite a lot through this season, so I always go season 4 is probably the worst, but season 1 for me, I don't think you can beat season 1 with the virus storyline and the Tribal Garland, I forgot what it was called. The Tribal Garland halfway through, I thought was a good insight as well. So yeah, I thought it was a good season 1's always the best for me.
Good answer.
A man after my own heart.
Yes. And I think everyone agrees with season 4.
Oh, a juicy one. What's your favourite or least favourite character?
Least favourite would have to be Ned. I just found him so annoying, and I found myself when I was watching season 3, every time Ned was coming on, I found myself skipping those scenes because I just found him so annoying. I know a lot of people maybe go towards Danny, but I didn't mind Danny too much. But Ned for me was really annoying, and he just felt a bit throwaway, if you know what I mean. It just felt like he was a throwaway character. But my favourite character would be Lex. I've always been a Lex fan. I think because the first scene that I've ever seen of the tribe was with Lex. You know that scene at the end of season 1, episode 51, where he's confronted, where the tribe's confronted with that gang, and they're not going to allow them past. And Lex says basically to Ryan, well, let's go, and things like that. That's the first scene I ever saw of the tribe. So I think, yeah, Lex has always been a favourite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Nice choices.
I mean, I wonder if one day we'll ever find like a Ned mega fan. It might happen.
If that existed, we would have found them already, wouldn't we? I mean, over the years, I think I've defended Ned's actions the most, so no. I don't think they exist.
Yeah, I gave him the most fair assessment anyone could. So, I mean, I don't know if you're going to find any diehard Ned fans out there.
Cool. Oh yeah, your favourite or least favourite couples?
Least favourite couples. Oh, this is a good one. Least favourite couple. I would probably say Sasha and Amber. I just didn't like Sasha and Amber at all. They just felt off to me. And at that time, you could see that Bray was beginning to get more of attraction to Amber, and Amber probably from the go, from that scene in the sewers where she goes to swing the weapon at Bray, and she holds back. You could see there was an attraction there, so it just felt really off with Sasha, and that the fact that Sasha was just there after the tribal gala and it didn't really say, "Oh, I'm going to stay," or things like that. It just felt off and it felt very rushed the way it was all put together. The best couple, I always had a bit of a soft spot for Jay and Ebony.
Ooh.
Cool.
What was it about Jay and Ebony?
I don't know, really. I don't know what it is. I just felt that it just felt so good together. It just felt he was a strong kind of silent type Jay, and she was Ebony. And I think, yeah, I felt it's just a really good pairing compared to what Jay gets with later on and things like that. I just think Ebony was the best fit for Jay.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Hmm.
We won't talk about what happens afterwards, but yeah.
I personally know two people who would feel incredibly vindicated by both of your choices.
I'm not a what we call a Bray and Amber fan. I'm not a Bray and Amber fan at all.
Ooh.
Yay!
Oh, hush! You let him be. Go on, Chris.
Well, I agree with him.
Don't let these Brambers bully and shame you.
Oh yeah, I mean, on that same vein, do you have a favourite fantasy couple?
Fantasy couple. Ryan and Alice.
Yay!
Just think he would be so good for Alice, and I think she would be so good for him. And yeah, I think Ryan and Alice definitely.
Okay. What's your? Do you have a favourite? Or least favourite storyline in the tribe?
My favourite storyline in the tribe would probably be the virus storyline. I just felt there was. It could have probably went a bit longer than it did. I thought they built it up quite well in terms of just after Sasha left, you could see them starting to build up to that storyline, and I thought it was done quite well with the trip to Eagle Mountain, then stuff with the antidote and things like that. I just felt you could have maybe went a wee bit slower with it, but gave more development with it, if you know what I mean. They could have beefed it out more, but yeah, it was a good story. But I would say a close second would probably be the Chosen storyline, because I think they built the Chosen up very well from the minute 1 of season 2, and the gradual process of the Chosen. You could see the Chosen then kidnapping people and things like that. Then obviously the big payoff was the last 2 episodes of season 2 where the Chosen did take the city. So yeah, I would say they were the 2. But if you gave me the first choice, it would be the virus storyline.
It's a good one.
Good choices. Yeah. No, I completely agree. The build up for those stories were amazing. Like they did take the time.
It's always fun to see like how across the board the favorites, they just become sort of, some of them are just so universal.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I would say. See, as the seasons go later on, I think sometimes they maybe threw away that kind of thing of building up the storylines and giving it a bit more like long-term storytelling, because I think there's a lot of advantages to that with long-term storytelling, and I think one of the big missed opportunities comes in this season, actually, where at the beginning of the season where half the cast disappear. There was something, if you had built that up a bit better at the end of season 3, the payoff would have been much better coming into season 4.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Do you have a favourite tribe style?
I've always kind of liked the Ecos, because I just felt it was very out there. It was just kind of their own thing, and if something like that was to happen to us, I would probably go and live the same lifestyle, really. Live out in the middle of nowhere, nobody bothers you and things like that, and just live off the land. So yeah, I think the tribe style of the Ecos or the Gaians was very good, and I think that was probably the best way to go if something like that was to ever happen.
Interesting choice. And last question, do you have a favourite tribe music?
Abba Messiah.
I'm still waiting for the day somebody's like, that's my least favorite song.
It's such a jam.
I'm waiting for someone to mention Beep Beep.
Right?
Every single guest has said Abba Messiah, haven't it? It's such a good song.
It's a banger. timeless, universal. I mean, when you make a winner, you make a winner.
All right, thank you for that. So, Series 4, Episode 12. The screenplay was done by David Fox. It was directed by Janet Stubbins. And the episode synopsis read out by our guest, Chris.
Doubts arise over Pride's guilt, but Lex refuses to release him without further evidence, leading Ebony to seek help from Ram. Lex also receives aid from an unlikely source, while Ellie's call for help goes unanswered.
You must be feeling pleased with yourself this morning.
How's that?
Oh, come on. After last night's events, a mole rat has been locked up for trying to delete Ebony. Proves you were right all along.
So, Ram celebrates with Jay the arrest of Pride and a subsequent boost to Techno's overall reputation. But Ram reveals that he initially thought that Jay was attempting to protect either Java or Siva as being the actual bomber. So yeah, panel, what did you think of the conversation here between Ram and Jay and its insights into the Techno mindset?
I know this is going to hurt you, Lance, but I think I found another episode that I liked. I don't mean to cause you pain, but I actually really liked this conversation. I think it's very character driven, and I like the insight into each of these characters and how they assess things, and it just constantly feels like there's an undercurrent of something else going on rather than the plot moving them to where they need to be. It's all interwoven the way it ought to be in its storytelling. And yeah, I really liked Ram a lot in this episode and in this scene especially. But yeah, I don't have any. I'm sorry, I don't have much more insight. I just thought it was really good.
No, I agree. I actually enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, it was great to see this kind of interaction, really, and the way they work together. You know, I like the fact that Ram thought Jay was protecting one of the girls, because that means Ram realizes that Java might be capable of doing something like that.
Yeah,
And
it does
as-
seem very clear that that's what he thinks, that she's totally capable of it.
Yeah, but I think it's nice to see that he thinks Jay's protecting one of them.
But he's not wrong. Jay was protecting him because he
Yeah.
suspects Java, but he is more interested in the reputation of the Technos and keeping peace in the city, which is why he initially wasn't going to allow them to be part of the investigation at all. And he even admitted that, I don't know if it was the last episode, where he's like, it's not that I think we're innocent, is that it's all about appearances.
Mm.
And it's good to see that they think about things like that, you know?
Mm.
I mean, it's interesting that Technos worry about their reputation. Like they have come to invade. Yeah, it's just an interesting notion about Ram, I guess.
Also, I wonder if it hints at now, as this time will go on, Jay will continue reiterating that he's not a techno, that he doesn't really believe in the technos in general. They're just a means to an end, to a goal he wants, right? And but he doesn't like being lumped in with them so much. You know, when someone's like, "You're a techno," he's like, "No, I'm not. I just work for technos." You know, and I wonder if that's clear. Ram is very aware that that's Jay's attitude toward the whole thing. And I wonder if that's possibly why Ram is so amused that Jay went out of his way to protect the Technos. You know, almost like, you know, nigging him a little bit, like, "Oh, you really are a part of us, aren't you, Jay?"
Oh, yeah.
I'm now instantly seeing Ram say that.
Yeah, I always thought, see with that scene that you're referring to, I always got the feeling, was Ram maybe not trying to test Jay's loyalties, knowing that Jay's kind of the outsider really, and let's just try to test him by saying, well, you protecting one of the girls here, or something like that. Then you can see that Ram's quite playful with that, because he deliberately sees Siva and Java coming into the room, then says, well, what one do you think Java's capable of that? And Jay goes, yeah, I think Java is proven capable. And Ram switches what they were talking about to a different subject. So I always got the impression that Ram's actually testing Jay's loyalty to the techno cause of that scene.
Yeah, he could have very well been.
Jay is a useful asset, and it seems Ram's very aware that this asset of his, he could lose him which is why he's always dangling the prize that he knows Jay wants over his head. And yeah, I mean, he likes to, that's what he does. He likes to play with people and test them and make them uncomfortable. And it would make sense if he was just, checking in on Jay because he knows he's one of his rogue warriors.
I think that's one thing we got the hint very early doors in season 4 was that Jay was going to jump ship. With what happens to Bray and things like that, Bray disappears, then that leaves a void of the leadership role within the Mallrats. Then you can see the cracks very early on in season 4 between Jay and the Technos, so I think they gave the game away a wee bit too early. You know that episode where the Mallrats attack the Techno base, and I think it's Ellie stands up and says, "Where's Alice?" And you can see Jay looking back, and you can see Jay was kind of taken back by that. So they gave the game quite away that Jay was going to be the one jumping over to the Mallrats.
Yeah, I think it was clear quite early on that even if you didn't know where the show was going, you could tell. Yeah, Jay was going to switch sides.
Yeah, he was either going to be the new Bray or the new Luke.
Yeah.
In their determination to convince us that Jay is actually a really nice guy.
Let's move on to what was quite an emotional scene, actually. So Ellie is upset to hear the news about Pride and leaves them all to clear her head, where she thinks about Jack and helplessly blows the lucky whistle he gave her to no avail.
Yeah, thank you.
What is it?
It's my lucky whistle. You see, if you ever need help, you just whistle. See?
Yeah, I thought it was quite a touching scene. What did you guys make of that moment?
I agree. I really, that did it got me in the feels.
For once, I actually felt sorry for Ellie.
I like it out of the inner context because at this point the audience is not supposed to suspect Ellie had anything to do with this, and I like that it works both in its smaller picture and in the broader picture. It's not like later when you find out the truth, her actions don't make sense. They still make sense. Like you could easily see this in the smaller spectrum of just Ellie having a breakdown as it feels like her family is further falling apart. Like, okay, one of us is in jail for suspected, attempted murder, and that means, and what power do we have to stop these people from, convicting Pride if they wanted to? Lex is the one who put him there. So again, it just adds to the sense of fracture of your home falling apart. And it's not as if you haven't lost enough people as it is. And so you can just see it as a breakdown there and how desperate she is to have everything be the way it was and have the people that she loves back. And then in the broader spectrum, it works because Ellie, again, as she says, I know Pride's not guilty because she knows who did it. And feeling helpless that this wasn't an outcome she suspected, she's very annoyed that they didn't question her. And so she's scared and overwhelmed and feeling like impotent, like I did this thing and now one of the people I care about might go down for it. And the only way I could save them is to go down for it myself. That's a scary position to find yourself in when you're already not in your whole head, when you're already emotionally compromised, and as Ellie is. So I think it just works across the board as a really good scene and breakdown for a character.
I did really like the scene with Ellie. I thought it was a very good scene. It gave you a bit of a breakdown of where Ellie was at emotionally when she was blowing the whistle thinking of Jack. Now, over the piece of the timeline of the back end of season 3 to season 4, she's lost 3 people that she cares about. In terms of her circle, she's lost Luke, Jack, and Alice. Plus some of the other Mallrats, but those are the 3 main people that you would say that she cares most about. She's lost the 3 of them within a short space of time, and losing Jack, who was probably keeping her together, just having Jack still in her life and things like that, then losing them all, and that's all just built up, and you could see that emotion when she blew that whistle. You could see it all coming out of her, and you can understand what happens later on, why she would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for once he has someone he can actively blame. There is someone he can lash out at. Whereas lashing out just at the Technos, it's no use. They're too big. But Ebony is someone he can actively lash out against.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thread. See Ebony's relationship to the three people that Ellie lost. She was with Jack when Jack was taken. Ebony had a good relationship with Alice. Ebony also had a tie-in with Luke at the end of season 3 in terms of she saved Luke from getting attacked by the Mozzies, and so they all tied into Ebony. And then what happens is, with what happens with Jack, and that's just the final straw. And it's true, if she went after the Technos, they were too strong. They would have dealt with her quite easily. So Ebony, who basically jumped ship effectively when the Technos invaded, was the easiest person to blame and the easiest person to get at.
That's a great insight. I hadn't thought about it like that. That because Ebony had ties to all of them. That's obviously a good reason why Ellie went for her. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah, because that's all gets put. If you watch back end of season 3, you could kind of tell with what happens in the beginning of season 4. Ebony's claws are all into these 3 characters, and you can understand why Ellie would then take that out on Ebony due to the 3 losses that she sustained. I know what happens to Luke is still a mystery to everybody. At the end of season 3, that's kind of left on a cliff edge what's happening there. But yes, Ebony definitely had a pause into the 3 of them. And let's look at it again. Luke, was it, if I recall correctly, was it not Ebony that put Luke on trial in season 3 as well?
Well, they all kind of did.
They all kind of did.
She personally also saved his life and then got him working under her. And,
Yeah.
you know, so the tie is still very there. She's like a bad luck charm in the lives of all the people Ellie loved.
And let's not forget, Ebony was involved with the whole Ned kidnapping thing, or at least the covering up of that and getting Ned killed, which caused Alice to lose the plot.
Yeah.
She's responsible for a lot more than she would like us to know.
And yeah, speaking of Ebony, let's move on to the next scene, because Ebony does not believe that Pride is guilty.
Well, what did the sheriff say about it?
You're not going to let her get away with this. Jay gave her 24 hours. Her time is about up.
Now, Java, we don't want to be seen as standing in the way of justice. I'll match Jay's 24 hours. You can have an extra day. But you know, Ebony, if you were going about this the right way, you wouldn't need nearly that long.
Oh? And what's the right way?
My way, of course. Using science, a lie detector test.
You have that?
I can rig one up. I'm a genius. Didn't they tell you?
So yeah, a few questions about these scenes, panel. What do you make about Ram's motives for helping Ebony? Was it simply to ensure his early sentiments came to pass by maintaining that the Technos are above board?
I think it's twofold. You know, I think he was accomplishing a lot of things by doing this. Number one, yeah, it clears his Technos, you know, but since he's not 100% sure if his Technos are innocent, I mean, I think he's 80% sure that Java and Siva had nothing to do with this, okay? Because I don't think he would take the chance if he actually thought Java, had anything to do with this. But I think, he's at least majority sure that she didn't do this. I think, so, it's clearing their name, It's offering an olive branch to a woman he is already quite fascinated with and is trying to get in there, So it's almost effectively he's love bombing her. And also it's a way of playing with everybody because he is enjoying Java's discomfort, even if he doesn't think she did it. He likes the fact that it scares her and she's uncomfortable being questioned. So I think it accomplishes a lot for Ram.
Yeah. And you can see there's pure joy he gets at testing out another gadget. So it's just, it all fits in.
He likes showing off.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it was a nice idea on Ram's part to do it this way, Because yes, he makes Ebony happy by doing it. He gets to show off his skills, which, he won't miss an opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all in all, he likes making people uncomfortable. So I think he also kind of quite enjoyed it when he was testing Java.
Oh yeah, he was having a lot of fun.
Plus, what this does is by exonerating the Technos in the eyes of the city, that makes the Technos look good. If he's seen to be doing all he can to find out who it is by putting his own people under the microscope. That makes the Technos look very good in front of the city. So if word spreads to the city that the Technos are doing everything they can by giving that extra day to Ebony to try and find out who the person is by doing this lie detector test to his own people. But there's also that element of bonus, enjoying himself, that he's getting quite gratification out of putting people backs up against the wall, like he does with Jabba at this scene, and like what he does with Jay, and changes the subject early on in the episode when Jabba confronts Jay about that. So yeah, he's a very playful character in that, and I think he does enjoy that element of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ram has actually been written very well, and rather than being given a false intelligence by making everyone else completely stupid and empty-headed, I actually buy that he's as smart as he is supposed to be. And I'm wondering, now, we know that the Technos miraculously hooked up the entire city simultaneous with their invasion with cameras everywhere, right? So that means cameras caught the person coming to the hotel to lay the bomb. Do you guys think it's possible that Ram is already aware of the fact that whoever did this wasn't within the hotel? Because he seems really calm for someone who, like, clearly, like, there's somebody came in the hotel and planted a bomb and he could have been killed, and he's not concerned about staying there. And so I wonder if it's because he is already aware that whoever did it isn't within the hotel, like isn't a part of this group. It's not the girls. It's not one of his Technos. It's not even Ebony or her, like one of Ebony's men. He knows it's from someone from the outside. And would you put it past him to keep that information to himself?
Oh, no, I think he absolutely would. He would keep that information to himself. He would use it to his benefit somehow. And especially after he's seen Jay give her the 24 hours. And, you know, he already spots that Ebony seems to like Jay. So what better way to, you know, stack the cards in his favor as well a bit than to give her those other 24 hours to play along with it, to, you know, give her what she wants, which is questioning her sister. It plays into so many different levels of how to get Ebony to like you, or at least it does in his way.
Like, I wonder if Ram always knew it was going to come down to them catching the bomber, but letting it play out like, oh, okay, I get it. She needs to feel like she's in charge here, and I'm going to play to that, you know, to get on her good side. But he's not surprised. Like, it's just the way he's working the whole situation. I can't help but wonder if he, you know, obviously Ram would demand that they go over the cameras after that threat, okay? Even if he was acting unconcerned, I don't put it past him that he would check the cameras, and the cameras would have shown that whoever did this wasn't from within the hotel. It was someone who came to the hotel. And then, so you already know that if you're Ram, so you're not worried, you're not having trouble sleeping at night, and you have an inkling this person's going to try it again. They're going to come again. And so you know it's going to come down to baiting them and trapping them yourself. But instead of telling anybody that, letting everything play out as a manipulation tactic, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but just saying he's playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And it definitely feels like something Ram would do.
And he does seem very, very calm. If you look at how calm he is about the whole situation, about somebody that could have potentially taken him out if that bomb had went off, he seems very, very calm. And if you look at the early on in the season, what he loses his cool about, if you remember that scene where they're at the stadium and you see Ebony on the camera and Ram kind of loses it and says, Jay, you only caught one. Now, he kind of loses it over that, but he seems very, very calm, very, very playful about this idea of this bomber, and he's just too cool about it. And I think he knows that it's none of his people, and I think he wants to ingratiate himself to Ebony because I think he realises Ebony has the power of the city behind her. If he can get Ebony on side, he can then potentially get the city on side with the Technos as well, or what comes on later on. So I think, yeah, there's definitely something about that, definitely.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to a subject that I know our panel loves to talk about. Let's talk about pride.
Yay.
Why didn't you tell me?
I didn't think you'd approve.
But I told you when we went on the raid. I've changed. I'm not going to give in to these people like I did with the Chosen.
I know. I guess I was just trying to protect you, that's all. You've had to lie for me, and I don't want that.
What do you want, Bride? I thought we were on the same team.
Later, he also has a heart-to-heart with Chloe when she visits him in captivity. Pride convinces her to make peace with Salene. So yeah, given our previous discussions on Pride's behaviour, what did you make of his attempts to apologise to everyone? Especially because there was a long, last, lingering shot of him smiling just as Chloe's back was turned.
Secret wasn't worth it. It's a disappointing secret. We already talked about the fact that if you're going to have him having these outbursts and being secretive with Salene, not just answering Lex's questions, even with lies, he could have easily just lied about where he was. Like there's when you find and then he finally tells Salene, you're just like, that was not worth your behavior. I'm sorry, this is lame. There was no reason for you to be acting like a crazy fool when this is the secret. And even Salene, like, I love her reaction. Like, why didn't you just tell me that? And his excuses are lame. Like, oh, I didn't think you'd approve. She's like, what are you talking about? We literally discussed this. Like, it was very clear we were on the same page of how we felt about Ebony and the Technos. So why wouldn't I approve of you meeting with other tribal leaders to get, their insight and to spy on the Technos? Give me a break. So I was completely on Selene's side at this disbelief that he's got this lame reason why he's been acting like a crazy person and not just being straight with her. And it doesn't land when you find out that's why he's been acting this way. And the scene with Chloe could have been quite nice. But again, it just feels borderline creepy. Can't really put my finger on it. It could be his facial expressions and it could be seen as innocent. Hey, if somebody likes you a lot and you can influence their behavior in a positive way, that doesn't mean you're a bad person for doing that, okay? But there's just something creepy about Pride doing it. I can't explain why. Maybe
Very
again,
creepy.
it's his facial expressions. There's something
That facial
weird
expression, yeah. And then
about
when
it.
suddenly just stops smiling as soon as she turns her back, like, you're
I'm like, what was
creepy, boy.
that about? I don't know if he was directed very well, or maybe, Nick had an idea in his own head of what Pride's doing, but it does not translate well to the rest of us who have to watch it. I don't know.
I do have to say, though, I think it was a nice little thing that they put in the fact that Salene questioned if Pride wasn't informing her because he was afraid she would go over to the Technos like she did with the Chosen. I'm just glad they remembered to put that bit of Selene's own insecurities in there, because it's a valid point from her point of view.
Right. The only downside about that, and because I agree with you, I like that Salene is self-aware that people might think that about her, given what they've already witnessed. But my only issue, and it's a small one, but it does remind you that, oh, that's right, she was with the Chosen and Pride totally manipulated her and then left her to hold the bag when he didn't have to get the baby out of the mall, and has never acknowledged or apologized for that. That's messed up. Because again, if you go back, you realize he didn't need to set Salene up at all in order to do what he did. He just did it.
If that's not what they want us to think about, of course.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna bring up her being with the Chosen, which again, fair enough, you must accept that's going to remind us of what he did to her when the Chosen were running the show.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting scene with Pride and Salene, and bringing up Selene's past with the Chosen showed that insecurity of Salene. If Salene was to get pressed by the Technos, would she do what happened with the Chosen? Yeah, I thought it was a good scene, and I think what I don't get about this scene, where I have an issue with this scene is, where did Pride become to get the street cred with the tribal leaders to organise an underground resistance. He's only been in the city like 5 minutes and he's already organising an underground resistance. For me, that didn't really connect really with me for some reason.
I can actually see that working, but that's more because near the end of season 3, they had those tribal leaders together, and they were trying to at least overthrow the Chosen. So through that part and through the connections Amber magically had in the city, I think that's for that part it made sense. But him wanting to overthrow them this way, yeah, I don't know. It feels strange for Pride.
Everything about Pride feels strange.
Yeah, but he never really wanted to deal with city issues.
Oh, remember, Salene reminded him of Amber.
Yeah. Oh, I was actually thinking about that. It would have made more sense if he knew that Amber had been taken by the Technos. That could explain Pride's will to form an underground resistance.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine him doing that for May. Not even out of guilt.
Yeah, I agree. I can see how Pride could have already had an in with the other tribal leaders because of season 3, even though that wasn't all handled that well. But I also feel the same way as you guys, where I don't think his drive to do it has been very well established, because it feels like a very personal thing, and I don't think they've done it enough to convince me that Pride went from being, a passive observer and someone who's deliberately not interested in being involved in this stuff to not. It's not like he's passively helping this time, which is what he was doing in the season 3. He was passively helping because that's what his leader wanted, but very clearly did not want to be involved in the city or the city's problems. How do you go from that to organizing these leaders without some personal thing driving you to do it? Again, he does not know that Amber was taken. As far as he knows, Amber and Bray are off in the countryside, raising their baby, or she's supposed to still be pregnant. You know what I mean? He's not doing this for May. So yeah, I don't think they've given him enough motivation to be this involved.
His only motivation could have been blaming Ebony for the fact that Amber's gone, which would have made him a prime candidate to be suspicious of trying to kill Ebony. But yeah, it just doesn't really make sense. It's like they're making Pride go, oh, what would Amber do? Like even that would have been more drive than what we've actually been given.
And also, see if you walk back and you look back at season 3 before Amber and Trudeau were taken, Pride was for leaving the tribe. Pride was trying to get back to the Eco Tribe. So he's went from that, getting back to the Eco Tribe, to all of a sudden fighting for the city as an underground resistance. I don't think they've done a very good job of explaining that journey for us in terms of what was Pride's motivation of doing that, plus what was he hoping to achieve and what was he doing it for, if anything. It just didn't fit together as well as it could have.
Yeah. It's very taped together, some staples. They need him here. And again, they were able to keep him before because Amber went missing. That was a personal drive. I need to make sure she's okay. I have to find her. Okay, we buy it, fine. But yeah, after that, it's like, what is the personal drive to keep him around here? And to get this involved. They just haven't sold that. I feel like they were scrambling. And then they were like, oh, he found a reason. Salene reminded him of Amber, and now he believes the city's worth fighting for. But it's just like, really?
I would have went with it more, see if they'd about his relationship up with May, and they'd done a lot of good work building that relationship up to something really, really good. And May had still been around, and she maybe got taken in a similar circumstances to Jack, for example. Then you can maybe see the route for Pride to start this underground resistance, but it was kind of a throwaway relationship with May, so they didn't really build on that relationship with May, so that wasn't really a reason for him to start that underground resistance. So I think they could have done more with that in terms of they could have built that relationship up with May to the degree then have the Technos take May, maybe early doors season 4, then that gives him that reason to then start that underground resistance.
Or, because I really like where you're going with this, okay, we accept the fact that he didn't really care about May, and that's how we start season 4. He feels guilty about May. But what if it was he had a he had a self-actualization moment where, the guilt of how he treated May, really gets to him, and it makes him look at himself and what kind of person he is. And, it's kind of like how Bray responded to after Sasha left. That's what he wanted. He was happy about it, even though Amber was heartbroken. But after seeing Amber's heartbreak, he started feeling like a complete douche and started trying to better himself. He looked inward and realized, why should she have picked me over a guy like that who was really good to her? Maybe I should be worth, maybe I should be a guy worthy of being picked by her, and really went out of his way to step up his game to be a better guy rather than relishing her pain, and they could have done that with Pride, like realizing, I did a douchey thing to someone who didn't deserve it, and the least I can do is fight to get her back. You know what I mean? Like, just be a better person. They could have done that, but instead they've really gone out of their way to sweep May under the rug.
If you look at May's journey through season 3, that's another thing. They could have done more in terms of the relationship. See, that's one thing I'd probably criticise is in terms of that Ellie is probably the only one that really has significant trauma about the people around her getting taken. Lex very quickly moves on to chasing Siva and things like that, but the rest just kind of... There's not enough, I don't know what the word would be, there's not enough emotion from the rest, if you know what I mean. After the first couple of episodes, when they realise their friends are gone, apart from possibly Ellie, everybody else kind of gets on with their life, really.
Yeah. So yeah, they're still struggling with Pride. They are struggling with him.
The good news with Pride is there's worse to come.
Yeah, there is.
Let's move on to Lex and Siva.
Where you been?
Around.
Around where?
You know, the city. You know who we saw? The Sheriff Lex. Getting into all kinds of trouble. Can't make up my mind about him. He's such a damn fool.
What'd you make of the rescue and Siva's interest in Lex?
On the surface, I like the scene. It's fine. I actually think it's probably... This random guy with a bat is giving me the best fight scene in 4 seasons so far, okay? That guy looked like he was out to murder Lex. I believed it. That was actually really well choreographed. I enjoyed it. I want Bat Guy back. Hashtag justice for Bat Guy. I actually like the whole scene. I think that the setup is great. I like the payoff. Siva saving him. I think it's just really cool. It's very intriguing. Why would the Technos come in and restore order when they could just let the sheriff get his head bashed in? You know what I mean? Like, why not? My only real criticism of it is the same I have for D falling for Lex. I cannot understand why Siva sees in Lex as he's been written so far.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just desperation to feel anything for a guy that you're not terrified of. That's possible. I know he's got a pretty face. But otherwise I'm like, Siva, you're already too good for him. I don't know what you see in this guy.
But Lex is like the male version of a damsel in distress in Siva's eyes. She gets to rescue him.
Yeah, but she admitted to already liking him, like having a affinity for him before she rescued him. Like, that's why she chose to rescue him. So you can't even say this is like Florence Nightingale syndrome, where she rescues him and then falls in love with his pathetic helplessness. You know what I mean? Like, she saved him because she's intrigued with him, and I'm like, why though? Are you intrigued that he's mad at you because your people took his wife? Is that what this is? Maybe she's intrigued with the fact that this guy there's a man, maybe she finds that romantic. I don't know. But Siva, you deserve better. But
That's a low bar. Like
it's a low bar, baby.
he
But
credits
we
what I'm
have a lot of
doing,
low.
so I love him.
Right. Given her
We have a lot of low
situation,
bars in these seasons.
maybe it makes sense that she has an incredibly low bar. It probably sounds romantic to her, and there's nothing romantic about Ram.
And and that's the big difference between them. Like, especially from her point of view, Lex is basically harmless because he could zap him within a couple of seconds. Whereas, Ram, he's actually scary. Not physically scary, but yeah, there's such a big contrast between Ram and Lex. So who knows? He might just be into the fact that he's the opposite of Ram. I did like the fact that Dee had to comment on them having medicine, because my brain is going, what kind of medicine do you really have, Dee? I mean, sure, you have some water to clean a wound with, but come on, Bray wasn't even able to find plasters in season 1. So how do you magically have stuff to disinfect a wound for Lex?
Oh, poor Dee. You deserve better than being jealous or irritated that a woman is tending to Lex. I not to mention, again, I kind of liked that conversation because it was like, Dee, where were you when he was about to get his head bashed in? I didn't see you try to help this guy at all. No, I don't blame her for not trying to help him. I'm just saying he would have died without Siva's intervention. So she won the prize here. She gets to clean him up. You forfeited that prize, Dee, when you left him to die.
I kind of found it adorable, though, that Siva was actually carrying a first aid kit.
It's cute.
It's like, did he go out there expecting Lex to get his head bashed in?
I like the scene in terms of, because what it done was, it was another building block to building that relationship up between Siva and Lex. Because if you remember in a previous episode, when Lex was offered the chance to choose what person who he would want to interview first, he chose Siva. And I think there was just that natural attraction. This is just another building block to starting the relationship. But I do think one thing it does do this scene is it discredits Dee as a sheriff. Because when Lex is getting attacked, she just stands by there. You can see her, I think it's just this guy swinging the bat. You can see Dee with her hands on her face. And you're like, if you're the chef, shouldn't you be doing something? I can imagine if that was Alice. Alice would have been in the middle of that, guaranteed. But it just kind of discredited Dee as a sheriff. But what it did achieve was building that relationship with Siva and Lex. And Siva tending to Lex's wounds is obviously another step onto building that relationship. And I think Siva, she sees Lex, she sees that he's not 100% on the level, and I think she's kind of attracted to that kind of guy. It's not a good guy, but he's not like a bad guy, Lex, but he's kind of in between that, if you know what I mean.
He's a harmless buffoon in her eyes. Very hot, but doesn't scare her, which, again, it's a low bar to clear, but makes sense that that's her bar.
I did it. No accomplices. No one else knew what I was up to. I wasn't out to get Ebony. I didn't care about the Verts. I didn't care about any of them. I was out to get you, Ram. All the times you made me look stupid in front of Jay, in front of everybody. I was getting my own back. Once and for all. If I had the chance, I wouldn't mess up again.
Well, Ebony, according to the machine, it says...
Don't tell me I can guess. Pack of lies.
Pan, what do you make of Ved's answer and what it means about the high regard that he obviously holds Ram in?
It's a really nice showing and not telling of that relationship between the two of them. And I do think it was revealed smartly because I did not know that. It's not something I would have picked up before. And I feel it now. I'm like, oh, wow, it's a good scene. It's actually really good. Aside from the absurdity of the lie detector test thing, the actors.
It is possible.
It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the absurdity of that machine. And whatever. aside from that, I think it's a really great scene, and Dan Weeks' performance is fantastic. And yeah, I think it's just really great at showing what the relationship is between these two is deeper than we've already been given, you know what I mean? And just really good character work there.
It's nice that it gave us a little bit of extra insight and everything. Because honestly, for a moment, I was wondering what that light detector would show on Ved answering like that he didn't like Ram's behavior towards him.
I think, yeah, again, it shows Ram's playfulness again in these kind of serious situations. It also shows an insight into Ved and Ram's relationship, and it shows that I would say there's probably a mutual respect between the two of them, between Ram and Ved. And I think, but also from Ram's perspective, I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to get validity from his machine to Ebony's, trying to say, well, you don't really believe that I'm doing this genuinely, so I'm going to show you by having one of the Technos basically admit to doing it, so it shows that they're lying, so it then validates the test.
It's also kind of nice just to see that kind of reinforcement of the fact that there is a wedge between Jay and Ved, and that Ved is more supportive of Ram, and I just kind of like that.
Oh, I was just going to say, I also like it because the first time we saw Ram and Ved interact, Ram was enjoying playing with the brothers, playing them against each other, and the humiliation that Ved felt. But he targeted Jay, not Ram, in his anger. Like very much blamed Jay for his humiliation at Ram's hands. So seeing this contrast that, again, he's clearly has higher regard for Ram's opinion, playing Ram's games. And it's also nice to see everybody else is walking on eggshells around Ram and nervous, uneasy about these tests. Even Jay isn't comfortable with the Technos themselves being investigated and doesn't quite understand why Ram would want to do that. But Jay, Ved's the only one who's completely on board, seems to understand a lot of how Ram's mind works. So it gives you the hint that Ved is actually in Ram's confidence, where none of the others are.
I think as the season progresses, you see a lot of trust between Ram and Ved. Like later on, you see that Ved's on board with the special projects and things like that. So I think it shows that also. And I think with Ved and Jay's relationship, you see at early doors that their relationship isn't really that secure. Because you could see one scene at the beginning of season 4 where Jay says to him, I could send you to a labour camp, and Ved says, go on then. And you could see the relationship between the two brothers isn't that great, and you could see that Ved is more gravitating towards Ram. I don't know where, because Ram's more into the technology, or because Ram's more open-minded, where Jay's more kind of quiet business type. I don't know what it is, but there seems to be Ved gravitates more to Ram rather than his own brother, and we find out later on why that's the case later on. But it just says to me for Ram and Ved, I think Ram, I wouldn't say manipulates Ved, but I think he knows how to get Ved on side. He knows what makes Ved tick and vice versa. And I just think they get on very well together, where Jay's kind of the outcast really out of the three of them.
Well, they've already been hinting and showing that one of Ram's strengths is understanding what, all of these useful people that he needs, what he can promise, what he can give them so that his goals can be achieved. Whether or not he'll keep those promises is a whole other story, but he does know what to say to them. So, Ved's prime picking for someone like Ram. Very easy to use. He's this young boy, basically, desperate for validation, desperate to step out of his brother's shadow, to be seen for his skill set, his value. Ram, that's an easy thing for Ram to give him in order to be, to use Ved's skills. He gives him that recognition, even if he doesn't care about Ved, because at the end of the day, he doesn't. He cares about him as long as Ved's useful to him, and that's how he feels about most people. But it does make sense that Ved would feed into that Very hardcore.
You think Jay disrespects his brother in a way because you can see like scenes from early on in the season where Ved wants to go with Jay to threaten Ebony, and Jay kind of says, kind of slaps him down as if to say, basically, I don't really trust you to go. And where Ram gives Ved more responsibility and that more validation to be part of the Technos, where Jay's kind of slaps him down, kind of not demeans him in a kind of way, and doesn't give him that same validation that maybe what Ram does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Jay treats him like a little brother, and Ram treats him more like an equal.
And Jay only cares about him like a smidge more. Like just a smidge. like Ram doesn't care about Ved at all, you know. Jay kind of cares about it.
Jay feels it's his responsibility to care about his little brother, because that's what Mommy and Daddy would have wanted him to do.
I found it interesting that the dynamic was, mind when Ved was getting roasted by Ram for losing one of their communicators. Ved wouldn't answer back. You could tell Ved was terrified what was going to happen. But when Jay goes at him, he's got more go at Jay because he's probably more scared of Ram. If you get where I'm going there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying. Like he should, you know, in that moment, it's Ram who's humiliating him. You'd think his anger would be turned at Ram, but instead he turns it on Jay. You know what I mean? So it just says a lot about who he regards more and who's giving him what he personally needs at this time in his life. And so even though Ram's humiliating him, Ram still gives Ved something he desperately requires, that validation that Jay never gives him. So it's a lot easier to hate Jay, to resent him, and it speaks to what the relationship was like before the virus.
Mm-hmm.
With the amount of parallels that are often drawn between, characters being a repeat of previous characters, it does make me wonder what the dynamic between Bray and Martin would have been like had we been able to see more of them, especially in pre-Tribe.
I think the difference is that it seemed clear to me that, one, Bray genuinely loved his brother and didn't do him any harm, and his only goal in season 1, when we first meet him, is to bring his brother back from the brink by any means necessary. He didn't care who he had to sacrifice to do it. He just wanted his little brother back. And all the way into season 3, Bray is still lamenting the loss of his baby brother, I don't feel like Jay has the kind of feelings for Ved at all. Not to mention, we never see evidence of Bray having done anything to fuel Martin's feelings, except exist. Where with Jay, you see plenty of things to validate why Ved's not crazy about him as a person. So it's a nice twist, All
right, that brings us to our final thoughts of the episode. When Ebony admits to Ram that she's not sleeping very well, knowing that the would-be assassin is still out there, he indicates that he might know a way to catch them. And they happen to be lucky, catching Ellie in the act of trying to strangle Ebony, blaming her for Jack's appearance. So yeah, what did you make of the reveal that it was Ellie all along and the build-up?
And I loved this reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Even knowing, I was watching it today going, I love this reveal. I thought this was great. I can imagine how many people were surprised that it was Ellie. And yet, when you look back, you're like, yeah, it works. It tracks.
Yeah. Especially combined with the earlier scene with Ellie where you see how desperate she is.
I also like that it harkens back to the Ellie we've known in the past, who was just run out there and do it kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's been knocked down a peg and she's been fragile this season. But we knew Ellie, as a doer. Throw caution to the wind, act on my feelings. I'm going out there and doing it. And yeah, I even like the change in method. She could have built, maybe she couldn't have. Maybe she used all her components on the first bomb, but I like that this time it was a much more focused attack. To go and strangle somebody, that says a lot. You can set a bomb. That's a hands-off crime. You don't have to be anywhere near it. You don't have to be worried about getting caught. This time, she put her hands around this woman's neck, and she wanted to look into her eyes as the life as she shuffled off this mortal coil. Wow. That is one of the most direct attempted murders we have ever got. Ebony, take lesson.
Java could have learned from this.
Oh my god. There was no monologue, nothing. She was just she didn't even care if she woke her up. Notice how rough she was before she got her hands to her neck. She didn't care. She didn't care if she got caught. She didn't care if she got taken down. She was gonna kill this bitch.
I was just a bit like, Ebony, you can push her off, man.
I know, Ebony wasn't fighting very
You're
hard.
not even trying, right?
But you remember this is Ebony's weak spot. Remember when the Guardian grabbed her there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just we just come off of that martial arts escapade with her and the sisters. Like, you can do a bit better than that, Ebony. Just lying there and getting strangled.
Oh, just grab the hands at your neck. Put a
try
fight up. What?
Something, yeah.
Something. No, that's her paralyzing weak spot. All she can do is flail her hands. Like, oh no!
She not knock Ruby off her in the season 5 fight.
Oh, was that a push? That was a little push.
It was something. Ruby knocks her on the ground by coming off the bar, and then Ebony kind of pushes her to get the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what we've seen of Ebony, the way Ebony can handle herself against the two sisters and things like that, you think she would be able to put up a better fight with Ellie, who's not very known for her fighting skills, shall we say. She's not been built up to be some fighter. But one thing I would say, if you can cast your minds back to season 2, and they're outside, they're watching the hotel, and Lex asks Jack, how do you get into that hotel without being seen? And Jack says, you can't. So if we're to follow the same information from season 2, how did Ellie get into the hotel not once, but twice, without being seen, if there's no way in, technically, according to Jack?
Because Ram let her.
Well, the first time he couldn't have,
Mm-hmm.
but this time he definitely did. And I think she might have, did she dress up as a loco the first time? But maybe the hotel just isn't as locked down as it was in season 2.
Right now, the threat is already inside. It's not. They're not actively protecting against people getting in, whereas in season 2 they were.
Because at the time in season 2, when Jack was working at the hotel, Ebony was really on high alert. She was incredibly concerned about the Chosen at the time. That's why the Mallrats were spying on her, because she was talking to the other leaders and they didn't know what she was doing. So it would make sense if she was on higher alert back in season 2 and very paranoid, whereas this start of season 4, I mean, she should still be on high alert, but...
Yeah, but she's not in charge.
I'm saying before Ram got there. I'm talking... Ellie got in there before Ram did. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's plausible that the security wasn't as stringent as Ebony's had it in the past, and Ellie was able to get in. Because she clearly got in there twice. She got in there to leave a bomb that didn't work, and she got in there to leave a note to let Ebony know, you won't be lucky again. So,
Also, but see if you're Ellie, and they've got Pride locked up, it shows that Ellie doesn't care what happens to her by doing that. If she was really trying to get away with what she was doing, surely she would have waited and seen what was going to happen with Pride before making her move. This shows that she doesn't care what happens by making her move now, when Pride's still locked up in the cage, which then allows Pride to go free. If she'd maybe been wanting to get away with it, she would have waited her time and seen what was going to happen with Pride, then make her move, knowing that Pride would be put back in the frame had something have happened.
Yeah, I do think that's a nice evolution of her head thought. And the first time she did it, she wanted to get away with it. She wanted to be smart, clever about it. And then she's agitated when Pride is going to take the fall. And that's why she, part of why she has her breakdown. She didn't want that. She cares about him as a person, doesn't want him to go down for what she's done. And it's just reached that point where it's like, you know what? Screw it. YOLO. I'm gonna take her down, and I'm gonna have to go down with her. I don't care. Like, this woman needs to go. And
You know what this moment reminded me of? Of Alice end of season 3. Or even Alice in early season 2 when she, kidnaps Tysan. But like her sister, she's no longer caring what's going to happen.
I still think see if Alice had still been on the scene, I don't think Ellie would have done that. I don't think she would have done that. And I think that this is just a culmination of losing all these people, and that Ebony's to blame, and she's carrying that out. And yeah, it shows that there's a family line of losing their tempers. As you say, in season 2, you see that early doors with Alice with the face paint, and she goes and kidnaps Tysan. You see that when she puts the face paint on again to go and take out the Guardian. So you see that there's a short-temperedness between the two sisters, and that just all comes together with Ellie trying to kill Ebony. But I do think this, on reflection of the whole season 4 as a reflect, I think it hurts this season as well because you're losing another main member of cast, which I don't think helps this season at all. There's too much jiggery-pokery with the cast, but I do think it's a decent enough storyline. But in terms of where things were at in terms of the cast and things like that, I do think it wasn't what the show was needing in terms of where we were with the cast at the minute.
Yeah, I do wonder if this was put in place because Jennifer had to leave the show for a while. Like, I will say, I think this is well written enough that I can't judge whether, like, sometimes they do a plot and you're like, oh, the actor had to leave. That's why this was thrown in. But I will admit, I think this time it's done well enough that I'm not sure if they wrote this in and actually made the decision to write a character off for a while, like write them off for the rest of the season, or if Jennifer needed to go, they had the time and actually used the time to plan around that to write her out in an interesting way.
Because, yeah, it is well done, and they took the time, which is very rare
Right.
this season.
It's not noticeable that, oh, the actors clearly had to leave, so that's why this sudden thing is happening, so they can. This time I'm like, if you told me they just decided to write this, I'd believe you, because they actually did a good job with it.
And it was good that they didn't go down the route of what they were going down with many characters from season 3 and season 4, was just making the characters disappear into the sunset, because it doesn't give you an end game to it, if you know what I mean. It doesn't give you, as the viewer, it doesn't give you that satisfaction. Like at the beginning of season 4, could you have done more to give that, showing the Technos taking these people and actually showing them taking them by force, given that, of course, they might not have had the actors in place to do that due to contracts, what have you, but could they have done more to give more characters the end, and that gives the viewer more satisfaction in that, because characters just disappear and you get a reason. This doesn't do it for me. You've got to give them that end game, and I think it was quite well done. It gives Ellie that end game, and you understand what's happening, rather than Ellie just disappearing like some of the cast done. Now you think about this is just a thing. Had we seen Bray getting taken out of the at the farm, Bray been taken, and you've seen that on screen, had you seen Tysan, Alice and that been taken on screen, it could have really upset the scene for what was coming later on in the season. I think that was a missed opportunity. I understand they might not have had the actors and things like that in place to do that, but I think that was a big missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, something that we learned from an interview with Ari Boylan was that the writers just didn't want to do closure. Like, he was prepared to come back as Casey and film like him being taken away and stuff, but they didn't want to do that. They didn't want closure. They didn't care about that. They just wanted to tell this new story. And like you said, it's a massive shame because it doesn't give us that closure that we needed to set the whole stage for this season.
It wouldn't have been interesting. This is just me just playing with an idea. Wouldn't it have been interesting if we had seen a flashback of Jay actually zapping Bray at the farm? We get that flashback. It's actually Jay that's actually zapping Bray and that.
Oh, would have loved that.
Me too. That would have added dimensions to Jay's character that were much desperately needed.
And even more to his relationships with certain people.
I mean, and we know it's something they've done before because they've done stand-ins with like when Patsy was taken away and they couldn't film her. They filmed her initiation scene without her. So like they could have done something like similar with a distance Jay shooting him, and you know what I mean, like it could have worked even without the actor, but they just didn't want that. They didn't want to give us any closure for any of the characters.
Closure's overrated, apparently.
Could there possibly, talk about rehanging the characters? Could there possibly, I know this is like a really bad idea, but when you get season 1, Paul disappears. Could there possibly recast any of these characters? And do you think that would have paid off with the viewer?
I think if it's something they've been willing to do early on, it would be something easy to accept as a viewer. Someone being recasted. I won't lie though, even though I'm definitely more open to that sort of thing, if they had never done it before and then just started doing it in the later seasons, there are plenty of viewers I think who would have trouble accepting that because it hadn't been done before, and they'd be like, "What is this?" I thought when a character was done, they were done. You know what I mean? I'm not against it, but yeah, I think they would have had trouble if they started recasting people in season 4.
Yeah, no, I agree. If they had done it earlier on, then I think we'd all accepted it more readily. But this late, it's like, what are you going to try and change Bray and Amber? Like,
And they would have never.
Ooh, that would have not gone down well.
Because it's hard enough to accept the character changes, like in their personalities from season to season, But if it's the same face, you ride with it. You complain about it, but you ride with it. And that is clearly something they have trouble with, keeping the characters' personalities consistent from season to season. But at least you have the same face to tie you to them. If they change the face and the personality, who is this person?
I think personally this is why I have an issue with this season, because the season 1, season 2 and season 3, you have that continuity of cast, you have that large portion of cast that you've grown with, that you've grown to like, you've grown to understand who they are, what makes them tick and things like that. Then all of a sudden half of them disappear and you're having to buy into all these new characters and things like that, and you say to yourself, well, could they have done it a bit slower in terms of the way they done it? Could they have done something different? But that's why I like the first couple of seasons best, because you've got that continuity of cast, and most of them are there for the 3 seasons going on to season 4, and you get that continuity, you get a great understanding of who they are, and I think that does work for a TV series rather than changing the cast quite drastically, quite quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't lie, I would have had problems if in season 4 they recast people. I would have been confused at first, like, who the frick is this supposed to be? It would have taken me a while to pick up, like, oh, that's supposed to be Bray. Okay, I don't know why that's happening. And I mean, because I'm somebody who had trouble switching the end credit song because they'd used the same one for 2 seasons. And I was like, wait, you can't change it now. Imagine my distress if they changed one of the actors in the 4th season. I would have been having conniptions.
I would not accept a new Alice. There's just no way. What? I can't beat Vanessa Stacy.
Like, I might have accepted at some point, like, had they brought Paul back in season 3, sure, I might have gotten behind that because he was very young, he could have changed a bit.
True.
But you also didn't spend that much time with him. You know what I mean? So you weren't locked in on this can be the only Paul, considering how early Paul left the show. So yeah, you would definitely be more willing to embrace a different actor playing him.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I would have had more issues if we'd suddenly gotten a new Sasha.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, even though he wasn't here long, I would have been odd. That would have felt odd, yeah.
That would have felt stranger than a new version of Paul, but that's just because of the aging issue.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get you.
Like,
for me,
I had
like, why is Sasha back? What are you doing here?
He's juggling for the Chosen. Duh.
If there's anyone who should be avoiding the city, it's Sasha.
We could have found him back at the guy in camp, happily living with Amber.
So yeah, just to close this off, like, Did no one bat an eyelid about Ellie creating this time-sensitive bomb?
No.
I just accepted it. I was like, okay. Like, I know. I'm not saying it's realistic. I just accepted. Fine. Okay. Ellie was able. This is something her and Jack talked about. Jack was already bloodthirsty. Okay, and this was his girlfriend. At some point, they had this conversation. I wouldn't be surprised. The fact that she was able to put it together in a matter of hours. Sure, why not?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she used parts of the bomb the Guardian had.
See, there you go.
She reactivated that one. You know, it's
Ellie, the
Yeah.
journalist.
It was a battle I'm not willing to
degree. It was a bit like, I know, it's just a bit of. It didn't ruin the whole reveal and stuff for me, but it was like, really, really though.
No, you're 100% correct.
she just had to connect 2 wires again. That was it.
I was like, whatever, fine. Sure. Ellie put together the bomb. Okay.
I'm willing to let her have that one in order to have her be the one behind trying to blow people up. Makes so much more sense. Because as Ebony said at the beginning of this episode, Pride would never have done that. It would harm the environment.
So that brings Series 4, Episode 12 to a close. Thank you very much to the panel, and you can show your support by clicking on that like and subscribe and following us on all the major platforms. You can also leave us a comment or get in touch if you'd like to take part in a future episode of the podcast yourself. Just search for thetribe.co.uk or Conversations on Legal Mountain. You can also throw us a donation. Just head on over to buymeacoffee.com/thetribe.co.uk. And we'll see you next time for episode 13. Until then, bye.
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 Bye.